Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is Wednesday. It is Tuesday. It is Tuesday morning. It's Tuesday morning. Good morning. Transformational Tuesday. Triggers and healing. Why getting harder? Why it gets harder before it gets better? Why does it get harder before it gets better? Let's talk about it. Good morning. Good morning. Why does it get harder before it gets better? Good morning. Why does it get harder before it gets better? Good morning. Trying to make sure that, okay. Good morning. Why does it get harder before it gets better? Good morning. I'm excited about today's conversation. Today we're talking about why does it get harder before it gets better? These triggers, right? These triggers. Why does it get harder before it gets better, you guys? If anybody know why it gets harder before it gets better, make sure that you put it in the comment. Good morning, Miss Melissa. Good morning, Miss Melissa. Put it in the comments. Okay, we're up in the group. Why does it get harder before it gets better? Listen, I want to welcome you back to Life Lessons with Dr. Sheila Little, a part of our Project Life. What we call it? My Project Life initiative this year, and a part of my Project Life initiative this year. And this is Project Life, where we turn theory into practice, and the whole goal is try to get us from really what we know, right, to how to do the things that we know, right? So it's truly about helping us transform from the inside out. Good morning, everyone. It is Transformational Tuesday. Why does it get harder before it gets better? We're going to talk about triggers. But before we do, let's take our deep breath. Let's take a deep breath. Let's feel our feet on the floor, right? Just a moment of presence, our presence, right? This is your time. No judgment, just our presence. So let's breathe in. Get present in our body, appreciate our body, have some gratitude for this day. We got an opportunity to wake up, to be here, right? To be able to learn about our triggers, right? And everything else that we're going to do throughout the day. Good morning, cousin Gladys, right? So we're going to breathe in awareness, breathe out resistance. Okay. So yesterday, we explored the stories we tell ourselves about healing, you guys. And today we're going to go deeper, right? We're going to talk about triggers, and we're going to talk about triggers, why they show up, um, and how they choose to heal us, and how we can use them to choose to heal us, you guys. Because healing just isn't about moving forward. It's also about facing what we have buried, or what has been buried, right? So triggers surface not to break us, you guys. They don't surface to break us, but to show us where the work is needed. Okay, so let's unpack that. But before we unpack that, drop a word in the chat. How are you feeling this morning? How are you feeling this Tuesday, Transformational Tuesday morning? Good morning, Mr. Whittington. Good morning, Lakeisha. All right. Drop a word in the chat. How are you feeling today? I'm feeling good. I'm gonna go work out after our session today. I hadn't worked out in a couple of weeks, so I'm excited. I had to try to shift my schedule around, move my workout appointments around. So I'm excited. I'm excited this morning to go in the gym. I don't know how much my trainer gonna be. He kind of upset with me, but so I'm excited. I'm excited to get back in the gym. Toto says she's sleepy. I'm sleepy. I'm sleepy. Okay. All right. So listen, if I had a mirror, right, I would hold a mirror up in front of you guys, and I would use that mirror, right, and I would say healing brings reflection. Okay. Healing brings reflection. What you see may be uncomfortable. It may be uncomfortable, but it's also an invitation to growth, you guys. So today, let's sit with what comes up with us, what comes up in us, all right, instead of running from it. A lot of us get very uncomfortable when we start to feel any type of feeling, right? If we feel too happy, because remember, trigger is not in life lessons with Dr. Sheila Little. A trigger is just not always like a negative thing. We're talking about trigger in its definition, right? So I can have events that trigger happiness too, right? So when we talk about triggers in the definition of triggers, right, this is about our mental health and it's about healing, and a big part of healing is allowing ourselves to be happy too. And sometimes we can get triggered in ways, right, where things are going too good, right? Things are going too good. Like, wait a minute, hold on. This person is too nice. Must be something up. Good morning, Miss Dale, Miss Delana, right? Um, Miss Lakeisha said, I'm feeling good. All right. And then we can get triggered in fear, right? That feeling of being too good, right, can trigger us to want to withdraw, right? I'm feeling too vulnerable, right? This person is bringing me in too close, right? Love can be a triggering thing. New relationships can be triggering, right? So we have to know that a trigger is not just around like a negative thing, because a lot of us are running from our happiness too because we're scared, right? Some of us feel undeserving of true happiness, undeserving of love, because we tell ourselves that we have never experienced it. We don't really know what it looks like, so we justify, right, while we're not loving on ourselves or in loving relationships or trying to love, right? So these are all triggers. So this session is really for individuals who are actively working on their mental and emotional well-being, right? But feel stuck when unexpected emotions arise. And remember, unexpected emotions can be anything, right? It could be sadness, things like that, but it also can be happiness. And I want to tag that because I do feel like a lot of us aren't happy, not because there are not conditions around us that can make us happy. It's sometimes because we truly are scared or fearful or uncomfortable in our vulnerability, right? Miss Melissa said I had to reflect a lot and pray. I had to pause and think before I speak any words. It was the same energy I used to stop and reflect. Thank you for sharing, Miss Melissa. All right. So who is this session for? Okay, this session is for people who are mentally strong, and still struggle with triggers. Those who want to better manage their emotional reactions and build resilience, right? High achievers, right? People who are high performers in their life. They're doing a lot and feel successful, but not fulfilled, you guys, right? I got a good job, my relationship is going good, right? But there's this internal feeling, right, of not being fulfilled or probably not being in my purpose, right? So those who realize that this external success doesn't always equal this internal peace, all right? Individuals who carry emotional baggage from the past, right? We're carrying a lot of weight from our past, you guys, and want to understand how to process and release that. This is also for faith-driven individuals seeking practical ways to integrate their spirituality into their mental health. All right. Anyone who wants to move from emotionally surviving to really emotional mastery, right? How do I get to manage that? What do I need to do to really become a master of my emotions, right? Some tips is going to go in to show you guys that really learning how to navigate triggers with self-awareness and grace. And then individuals who have started their healing process but feel overwhelmed by unexpected emotions. When we start our healing process, or when and I'm gonna say when we start our healing process, and then I'm gonna put in like quotations, when we choose to change our life, because a lot of times we can call it healing, but a lot of times change requires us to heal, right? I'm ready to change how I show up in my life. I'm ready to change how I interact with my kids. I'm ready to change how I, show up for my husband, my marriage, for myself, right? And so that's going to create this need to heal, right? These spaces within us, okay? Those who feel stuck in patterns of self-sabotage and avoidance, people who struggle with perfectionism, you guys, guilt and fear of change when stepping into growth. This fear of change is truly, truly, truly truly a big thing, you guys. And I really want you to know that your brain wants to survive, right? It knows every inch of your life right now, and it is comfortable with it, even though you're uncomfortable, and it's trying to keep you there, right? Because it wants to survive, and it doesn't know that thing that you desire is going to be better for you, because the brain is not a it's not as conditional or intelligent. It's highly intelligent, but it doesn't have a way to decipher, right? So you know that possibly going and getting a new job or showing up differently in your relationship is going to be good, but your brain is like, but this is what we know, right? In the brain wants to conserve energy, so doing the things I know is going to keep me more safe, feeling more safe. But here's the backside of the discomfort, though, can cause some angst. All right. Anyone who wants to understand why healing, good morning, Dale. Why healing, anyone who wants to understand why healing often gets harder before it gets easier, you guys. Okay. So our quote for today is, healing is not about changing our past. It's about changing our relationship with the past. Let me say that one more time. Healing is not about changing our past, you guys. It's about changing the relationship we have with our past. All right. Remember, I say we're in relationship with everything, you guys. We're in relationship with our clothes. We're in a relationship with everything, everything. All right. And we're also in relationship with our past. And if we want to use this word, a toxic relationship with our past, right? Where every time we look at it, we get disgusted, we get overwhelmed, we get frustrated, we only have negative things to say about it, right? Then that's going to show up in how we show up today. Okay. That's going to show up in how we show up today, you guys, right? But if we change the relationship that we have with our past, you guys, if we can change the relationship we have with our past, then we'll show up differently in this moment, because we will look at our past and we can accept it. And if you know anybody that you have accepted that that's who they are, you have a different appreciation for them. Actually, you have an appreciation for them, for their authenticity, for how they show up, for their consistency, right? So when we start to really change the relationship that we have with our past, you guys, and start to accept it, we'll start to speak about it a lot more differently. Okay. The triggers that arise when we heal is really, that's going to be a lifelong journey, you guys. Many of us believe that once we decided to heal, things should start feeling lighter and easier, right? If that's you, put a one in the chat. Listen, I'm already in a bad situation. I'm gonna go on to heal to avoid or to feel better, right? Because I'm feel bad, okay? But the truth is, healing often make things feel more intense before they feel what? Better. Why? Because healing removes the numbness, you guys, the distractions, the avoidance we've used, you guys, to protect ourselves from our pain, okay? When we go to heal, we remove the numbness, the I don't care, the apathy, right? The distractions. We're confronting more of life. And I want to say like confronting, because I think confronting is like a combative way. We are participating more in life. Okay. So when we start to heal, we start to actually live, right? And when we're living, we're actually participating now in this thing called life. And when we start to participate, remember, now we're moving. We're actively moving in our emotions. We're actively moving in our thoughts. We're thinking for ourselves, right? We're feeling what that feels like. We're aware of the voice in our head, right? And this is not this is not an overwhelming thing. It's a present thing. And because now that I'm doing it, I'm able to metabolize more of my life. I'm able to sit with my life more. Okay. So triggers from the stories we told ourselves in day one. I want to say this because the trick, if our story is that healing is hard, healing is difficult, it's only going to make us resist it. All right. So when we really have to pay attention to our stories, and in a couple of areas, like our fear of change, right? So if I have a story around fear of changing, if I heal, who will I be? Right? Attachment to our identity. Being strong means um, not needing help. Right? So my fear of change. If I heal, what would I be? That's the fear of change. Okay, that is okay, if I do start to love people, if I do heal this relationship, like what would that look like? That's a fear of change. That's that uncertainty, all right? Attachment to our identity. Remember, when we have identified with our pain, when we have identified with our childhood wounds, you guys, good morning, Mariah. When we have identified with our childhood wounds, remember, right? Uh we have also taken on this isolation, right? Being strong means not needing help. I'm not going to ask nobody for nothing, right? People will let you down, right? We create these walls up to really keep us in that identity, all right? Guilt and shame. I should be over this by now, right? If you listen to people talk, it's interesting being an active listener and hearing people say, I'm going to say this and I know it sounds stupid. I'm going to say this, but I know it sounds crazy. And I should be over this by now. I don't know why I'm not, right? So this guilt and shame and judgment about how we are processing life, all right? And fear around losing relationships. This is a big one because I think a lot of us know that if I heal, I will outgrow people. And when we outgrow people, that can be tough because these could be some of the relationships that we hold near and dear. But outgrowing someone, right? I always give the analogy like we both started at the ground, right? We both started at ground level. We was planted in the ground. What I didn't know is that you were meant to be grass and I was meant to be a bush. Or I was meant to be a grass and you was meant to be a bush. And I'm stunning myself from growing into the bush that God created me to be because I'm trying to stay like grass with you. Okay. And if you think about it like that, I think that, and guess what? The bush now serves as what? Shade for the grass, right? When it gets too hot, right? The bush can kind of help the grass not get burnt, right? It can serve as shade. It can, keep moisture in the grass, right? Because its roots are deeper. But a lot of us as seedlings, right? We're really born to be bushes. We all grew up in the same in the same dirt, meaning the same community, probably the same home, and all of that. And God is trying to create a what is that called? A landscape, right? This great yard for us to play in. And I'm haunting my bushness because I'm noticing that the people around me is grass, right? And so I don't want to heal because I realize that I'm going to outgrow these people. Well, when I outgrow these people, one, they will learn to appreciate my growth. And then two, I will start to surround myself with what? More bushes, right? If that makes sense, put a two in the chat for me. I will start to surround myself with more bushes. And if you are a person that's grass and you see somebody around you that was meant to be a bush, right? That can seem a little challenging, but I would say embrace all the differences that we have as individuals so that our life can be fuller. I'm going to go back to that verse, the rising tide, what? Lift all boats. Okay. So when you get better, I'm gonna get better. And remember, we talk about this thing about are you gonna stay with me at my lowest points? I need a ride or die chick who gonna be with me when I fall. Do you know a lot of people have issues staying with people in their greatness, right? When their light is shining bright, how that makes people feel. And we don't talk about that enough, you guys. We don't talk about being around a person who has a purpose, who has drive, who has ambition, right? And how that triggers, things within us, right? Within us that can make us look at ourselves, that can make us feel a little inadequate. And that's why I want you to know that trigger is not there for you to point the finger and be judgmental. It may be there to stretch you, to get you to move, right? To get you to grow. Okay. Triggers that show up can come with, triggers that show up when we commit to healing, you guys. So some of the triggers is perfectionism, right? Perfectionism and spiritual pressure, right? Feeling like you need to heal flawlessly, right? Or that faith means never struggling, right? So this perfectionism is that I need to heal the right way, right? And if we go back to nature, nature even has this way of being unperfectly perfect, right? Like no orange is the same, right? No blade of grass is the same. The bushes grow, right? No leaf is like the perfect size, right? Or trying to mimic each other, right? But we have this need of what? Healing perfectly, right? I need to heal perfectly, feeling. And then if we're spiritual or in some type of religion, right? If I'm struggling, that means I'm not faith. I don't have enough faith. I must not be extending my faith. I must be in doubt. And this is just not true, you guys. Triggers success without fulfillment, right? Triggers that show up when we commit to healing is success without fulfillment, right? Realizing that you have everything you thought you would want, but you still feel empty. This is what made me kind of go into my transformation, is because I realized, you guys, that I had everything. I had the big house, I had the car, I had like degrees, right? The relationship, but I lacked this feeling of purposeness or fulfillment. I actually felt like I was dying on the inside because I was taking care of everything that I thought I was supposed to, but I really hadn't, healed, right? I was running away from all the naysayers, everybody who told me I wasn't going to be anything, all of my own doubts, fears, and insecurities. I was running away from all of the, like, not growing up in poverty and all of that, and running away from that stuff and seeking the things that would deem me successful, right? Actually made it more difficult, because then I started to lack like fulfillment in my life. I just felt like everything became a task. Okay. And I just didn't have the energy to hold that life up anymore, right? Grieving the old you is also something that happens, right? Letting go of the past relationships, habits, and mindsets that no longer serve you. I want you guys to know that grieving is just not something that happens in death. We grieve our old ideas, right? If I felt my life should have been like this, that I was going to be, I don't know, single with no kids at the age of 35. And I've told myself that over and over again. And I end up in a relationship at 29, pregnant with twins, right? I'm gonna have to grieve that old idea, you guys. Grieving old jobs, old friendships, right? Grieving expectations of people, right? This is a big one for with our parents, right? Wanting our parents to show up a certain way, and they don't. And so, and I'm saying parents in particular and family members, because we can't change them, right? We can't change them. So grieving the idea of who I think my mom should be, who I think my dad should be, and accepting who they are, right? That's a healing process. And a lot of us are grieving in life, and we don't recognize it, and we're just stuffing that feeling down because, again, it just seems like I'll never get what I want. Okay. So we have to know that grieving the old you, the old habits, the old past, the old ideas, and then a lot of times grieving how you think people should have showed up. Okay, focusing on what's lost versus what's gained. So when we start to heal, we can sometimes be triggered because we're focusing on what we lost versus really what we gained. And I had this conversation on Sunday before this, talking about healing, because I do think it's important for us to know that a lot of stuff that we're trying to gain, you guys, we have not experienced. Listen, if you broke your arm right now, you know the function of your arm, right? You know what your arm does for you. You've experienced this arm. So if you broke it, right, you will go and get it fixed, right? You will go get it cast up. And then if they sent you to physical therapy, you will go to physical therapy, right? Because the idea of you not being able to move this arm or work with this arm is so overwhelming that you like, no, I need to get this fixed. What do I need to do? Give me the ball, the squeeze. I'm gonna go into physical therapy because I need the full range of my arm, because I have a relationship with my arm. Now, And that's going to propel you to get up to do stuff that you wouldn't have wanted to do before, right? Go to the doctor's appointments, take the pain medication, like do all of the stuff that you need to do to heal this harm. Now, when we talk about healing our life, possibly getting the love that we desire, the financial state that we want, to find our purpose, right? That's elusive. Like a lot of us haven't really experienced true love and unconditional love. A lot of us haven't experienced financial stability, right? A lot of us haven't experienced living outside of a survival mode. So it's hard for sometimes us to focus on what I'm going to gain when I don't have a relationship with that. And that's why I use those principle verses in those Bible, those principle and promises verses, because those are the images, right? That's where we have to extend faith that I'm on one island, the thing I want is on the other island, and I need to, in some way, walk across this bridge. And as I'm walking across this bridge to this new life, I'm feeling all of that. I'm feeling all the fears that this may not happen. Am I ever going to get there? Because I don't have a relationship with that other island. I just have the desire to be there. If that makes sense, put a 3 in the chat for me. Right. So I want you to reflect on what are some of the emotions that come up, right? When you think about healing, right? I don't even want to leave that. So what emotions come up when you start to think about healing, right? And drop them in the chat for me, right? I was going to say, I don't want to leave that. So I don't want to give you the emotion. I want you to think about what emotions come up for you. I'm going to say, hold on, because I need to charge my computer. So hold. I'm sorry about that. My computer was about to die. All right. So I want you to think about this emotions, right? These emotions that come up when you think about healing, you guys. All right. So, we know that the framework is stop it. And we're talking about triggers, right? And triggers really stand for triggers are really the emotional reactions that show up, right? Show up in us. But for today's conversation, they are the emotional reactions that show up where healing is needed. All right. So triggers are not signs of failure, you guys. They are signs of healing. All right. They're really guiding posts. I heard a person say your nervous system is not like a thing that's going to say to you red flag. It's not trying to say red flag. It's really just trying to say, it's trying to provide you with some direction. Okay, if you walk past something and you bumped your arm and you noticed it was sore because you felt the soreness, you're going to investigate, right? You're going to say like, man, why is my arm sore like that? Okay. You're not going to say red flag to the door, right? You're not going to say red flag to the wall. No, you're going to investigate about the pain you felt when you hit the door, when you hit the wall, right? If somebody came and hugged you tight, right, and you felt like this soreness in your body, you're going to be like, man, why am I sore like that, right? But you're not going to say red flag to that person. They made my body sore. When they hugged me, it was something weird. I felt this soreness in my body, right? We're not going to point the finger at them. We're going to ask an internal question. Does that make sense? If it makes sense, put a 4 in the chat. But sometimes when we're triggered emotionally, when people do stuff to us emotionally, when we feel that pain, we're like, you're a narcissist. You don't pay attention to me. You're a bad person. You're this, you're that, right? And that's not what that trigger is really there for, you guys. It's there for you to do the same investigation to say, why? Why did I feel uncomfortable when that person said that to me? Why did that hurt me like that? And this is also why it's good to start to trust us, but also making sure that we understand that the people that we surround ourselves with, to hope the best for them. Okay. Not that they're doing the best, but to have the best hope for them. I always say like, um, I believe that nobody's intention is to truly be hurtful, right? That's a belief of mine. Now, if they are truly trying to be hurtful, that's fine. That's what they have to deal with. But for me, I'm a charge it to your head, not your heart, right? That situation, right? Every time. Because that belief for me, now remember we live off our beliefs, that belief for me allows me to focus on me, right? Like, why did that hurt? Why did that feel like that? Now some people have tried to hurt my feelings. And after exploring the conversation, not at the first trigger, but after going back and asking, why would you say that? Or why did this happen? Or, hey, I thought about this. And, now I'm having a conversation. It has been said like, oh, I was trying to hurt your feelings. Or, yeah, I just didn't really care about what you said. But that was after I reflected. That was after I went in and started to investigate. And I think that we need to do a lot more investigation. Just like we will bump our arm, we need to do that in our emotions, you guys. Triggers don't mean that you're weak, you guys. They mean that you're growing beyond your old survival mechanisms, or that it wants to grow beyond your old survival mechanisms. Think about a wound that's healing. At first, it itches, right? It itches and feels uncomfortable, but that discomfort is a sign that what? It's regenerating and renewing, right? I remember my son, my brother, he just, hey, good morning, Tavares. When he was little, he had a cast, and I remember it itching so bad, he would like stick, stuff in it, right? And my grandma would be like, that's because it's healing. My son got a cast. It itched so bad. And by that time, I had known that, oh, it's healing, right? It was uncomfortable though, as it started to heal, right? So healing triggers functions. The healing trigger functions the same way, you guys. It gets uncomfortable. We get a little itchy on the inside. We start to feel a little, uncomfortable, and that's okay. All right. All right. Triggers are your mind's way of saying, I'm reminding you, I'm re- this reminds me of something painful from my past. So when we are talking to somebody and we find ourselves triggered, right? The trigger is just saying, oh, this is similar to something I've experienced before. And remember, because we have this thing called epigenetics, it may be not something you've experienced before, but it may be something in the bloodline. It may be something in the collective conscious. Good morning, Cousin Debbie, right? But instead of avoiding or numbing, we can ask, what is this trigger trying to teach me? Because life is trying to expand. Let me say this. When you have an apple, right? Tomato, right? When it's ripening, it's growing. It's growing. It's expanding, right? At the point in which that tomato starts to shrink, you know what? That it's about to what? It's getting stale. It's not you can't use it anymore. It's actually what? I want somebody to put in the word, right? If you got a tomato, and as you see that tomato, it's growing, right? It wants to grow. And as long as you keep it on the vine, it's gonna grow. It's gonna grow. But when we pluck it off and we sit it there, when we start to see it whimpering and shrinking, we know that it's time to throw it away, right? It's dying. It's dying. Same with a flower, right? So this is the thing that I want you to think about yourself, that this trigger is teaching me what? To grow, to expand, right? That's how I know I'm living, because life is what? Expanding me. It's stretching me. As soon as I start to shrink in front of people, right? Now my voice is dying. Shrink with my awareness, right? Right? My worth is dying, right? So the trigger is there to make you alert. The trigger is there to make you aware of, okay, do you want to live or die in this moment? Do you want this moment to grow you a little bit or take a little bit away from you? Right? And so we reflect. We reflect. Okay, what is this trying to teach me? Maybe it's trying to teach you to stand up for yourself. Maybe it's trying to teach you that you do have a voice. Maybe it's trying to teach you that you are intuitive. Maybe it's trying to teach you guys that you're not that little kid anymore, right? You're not that little kid anymore. And that this situation and circumstance no longer controls you. All right. The next time you feel a trigger, I want you to pause and instead of reacting, right? What is this trying to show me about what still needs healed in me? That's the question I want you to ask, right? Because triggers are not your enemies. They're actually an invitation to deeper healing, right? Think about a time you reacted strongly to something and later realized it was connected to an unresolved wound, you guys. What would have changed if you had paused? What would have changed if you would have paused and explored it instead of just reacting? Right? Healing gets uncomfortable before it gets better, but every trigger you face is proof that you are no longer avoiding, you are healing. All right. What if instead of fearing our triggers, we saw them as guides? What if they wasn't here to hurt me, but they were here to assist me in my healing process? So think about one trigger that has been surfacing for you, right, in this last season. Are you willing to explore it, right, instead of avoid it? And I have to say this. I do think that a lot of us are not willing to explore our triggers, you guys. Good morning, Miss Jackie. I think, oh, it's molding. Yes, the tomato is molding, right? Thank you, Miss Jackie. Back to the tomato conversation. It's molding when it starts to shrink. Okay. So I want you to think about this. This is coming up in my spirit. I think a lot of us understand that life has been pushing us in a certain direction, right? It has been whispering to us. It has been telling us to show up, do this, go there, be this, right? These little small whispers. And because we either want to be safe, because either we want to be accepted, because we have some uncertainties, we've made our own decisions. And I think that when we talk about healing, there's an intelligence in us that know that if I go down that road, my life is going to be totally different. I know that I've been taking lefts when I should have took rights. I know that I should have been doing different things. I know that I'm so in misalignment. This is the narrative that you may have, right? That my life is in so much disalignment that I would literally have to change everything. Like the person I'm with, the people I see, like my life would just be totally different. Mind you, that could be a narrative. That could be a story. Because I can guarantee that you are exactly where you need to be. But you can tell yourself that if you start this healing journey that, oh, this big shift and this big change is going to happen. And, and I just don't know if I'm ready for that. That's the story to keep you stuck, to keep you from healing. But here's what I know for sure. You're exactly where you need to be. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Because maybe making those left turns when you should have went right was the turns that you were meant to make, you guys, that was going to lead you what? To the point to you. That was going to help you what? Discover, unfold, to blossom in a way where you finally get pressed on so much that you need to make the shift. And taking those left turns is what got you to the point to really do that thing that you need to do for yourself. So you're exactly where you need to be. And I can also say that the, your situation doesn't have to change in your healing process, but you can change how you respond to the situations, right? That's what healing is about. So I remember, I used to think, and I saw my mom do this a lot, like, we're going to pack up and leave. I'm going to pack up and leave. I'm mad. I'm packing up and leaving. Get my stuff, getting my kids. We're getting out of here. And I took that with me as an adult woman. I started to pack my stuff and leave. I'm going to show you. You don't tell me. I'm going to get my stuff and I'm going to leave. I'm going to go to my daddy's house, go to my mama's house, go get a room. I'm going to put you on punishment, right? I may even threat that I'm going to, leave and go get my own house. Or I'm going to tell you to go get your own, right? So that was my thing because that's what I learned, right? But what I realized is that wasn't working, right? Packing up and leaving, packing up and leaving, packing up and leaving was never truly getting to the root cause of my issue, right? The relationship issue. And I was responding from a trigger, right? Because if I was going to pack up and leave, if they were going to pack up and leave in whatever relationships, because I've done them in a lot of them, right? If whatever that relationship was, if we would have sat down and talked about it and we made the mutual decision, okay, maybe this is not what we should be, now how are we going to unpack, right? Unpack this. You're going to leave, I'm going to leave. But a lot of times I was just up and busting up and leaving, right? Because I felt like, how dare you? And it was a learned behavior. So healing, right, required me to sit in that uncomfortableness. So it went from, if y'all read my book, Stopping Now, it went from I'm packing up and leaving to I'm going to go to my room. Yep, I'm going to my room. Right. And then it got to the point where I could sit there and I could listen and I didn't have to move. I probably escaped in my mind. Right. And then it got to the point where I didn't no longer have to escape the conversation. I could sit in here. I can listen. Right. But in the beginning, it was definitely I was leaving. And so I think that mechanism of packing up and leaving or hiding or avoiding, right, is really stopping us from really growing, right? Whether we're escaping in our mind, whether we're, going to a friend's house, whether we're venting to our friends, right? We're not really dealing with the emotions that's coming up that's really trying to teach us. All right. All right. So we're gonna go to our biblical wisdom. If that made sense, put a 5 in the chat, you guys. Okay. Our biblical wisdom. What did God say about triggers and healing? Right. So James 1:2-4 says, "Consider it for pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kind, because you know that the testing of your faith produces what? Perseverance." Right? Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking for anything. That is James 2. That is James 1:2-4. Right? What does this mean? That triggers may feel like obstacles, you guys, but they are actually tools for growth. They reveal areas where we really need to heal. We really need to heal and strengthen. They reveal areas where we need to heal and strengthen when we work through them. All right. Instead of fear and discomfort, we can see it as a part of our spiritual and emotional maturity. All right. Consider it pure joy when we face trials, right? Of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces what? Perseverance. All right. What this means is that triggers feel uncomfortable, but they are not punishments, you guys. They are opportunities for growth. This discomfort will feel, this discomfort we feel when facing old wounds is part of our spiritual and emotional strengthening, you guys. Just as muscles grow when challenged, our faith and inner strength expands, you guys, expands when we work through our difficult emotions instead of fear and discomfort. We can see it as a sign that we are becoming stronger. Good morning, Brother Roosevelt. All right. What this means for our mental health is that everyday challenges and emotional triggers are a part of our life, you guys. And they're going to be a part of our life for the rest of our life. But that doesn't mean that they're there to break us. They're not there to make us run. They're not there to make us escape. They're not there to make us get our clothes and say, I'm out of here, or to judge another person as inadequate, right? Right? The discomfort we feel when we're facing a wound is part of our spiritual and emotional strengthening, right? Just as this verse reminds us that working through discomfort actually strengthens us mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, right? Healing is about building resilience, you guys, not avoiding our pain, right? What is resilience? That's not like making you strong. Resilience is like the rubber band. I did a conversation on resilience this weekend with some kids. And if I had a rubber band in my hand, resilience is like a rubber band. Okay? The rubber band is this size. And we stretch it. And we stretch it and we stretch it. And we can hold that stretch. But when that situation is over, what happens to the rubber band, you guys? It goes back. It goes back to its original size. It goes back. And that is what resilience is. The resilience is that I have the capacity to stretch. to stretch myself, to get uncomfortable, to to feel this, and it's not gonna break me. And when this is over, right, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to this state of peace, this state of understanding, right? Like it's not there to break me. So if we think about resilience like that, then we will probably have more compassion for it. But because if we think about healing like that, then we may have a more capacity for it. But if we think that healing is like, like the top on the water bottle, that when you break it and it's like a little circle cap and you can't move it, there's no bending or breaking. Like, no, that's not resilience. And I think that's what we see as strength, immovable. You're not gonna change me. You're not gonna, make me. I'm too hard for that, right? It can be a form of, I'm using this word softly, toxic masculinity, or this facade of knowing. But you're like the cap, like that rubber cap, like immovable, right? And that means that like you only gonna fit that top of water, right? That water top, right? But when we think about building resilience, right? A rubber band stretches. That means I can stretch over the top of this cup. I can stretch over this water bottle, right? I can stretch myself, and it's not gonna what? It's not gonna break me. All right. So instead of seeing our emotional triggers as setbacks, you guys, we can view them as opportunities to really grow and become more emotionally mature, you guys. All right. 2 Corinthians 12:9. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest in me, you guys. Right? So God's grace is sufficient. Okay? What this means is that healing is not about being perfect or never feeling triggered, you guys. God grace really meets us at our struggle. Okay? And that's when I talked about earlier, what does healing trigger? Like this need to be perfect, this need to heal right? This need to, say the right thing and do the right thing and not feel, right? When we can tag, and I talked about this yesterday, your spirituality has to be a part of your healing process, because we need to know that, you know, that God's grace is going to meet me at my struggle, whatever I'm struggling with, right? And when we lean into our faith in these moments, right? When we lean into our faith in these moments, we gain strength beyond what we think we have. Miss Melissa said we do need to heal, and we are not meant to walk this journey alone. No, Miss Melissa, we're not. Thank you for that comment. Okay. Healing is not Healing does not require us to be perfect, you guys. It does not. It does not. Healing can be messy. It's like work. It's like cleaning out your closet. Like your room gonna get messy before it gets what? Before it gets organized. And when we think about, I want to bring the most practical analogies and metaphors to really get our minds to become comfortable and feel safe, right? Safe with this healing process, because it's not a threat to who we are. It's not a threat to who we are. Okay. All right. Because we were born to become that. And we were born to go through everything that we went through, which is why we have to have a different relationship with our past. So healing does not require perfection, you guys. Many of us feel like we have to get it all right, or that feeling that's triggering inside of me means that I'm failing. I think about I think about people who get triggered, especially when you was a little kid and you felt like, you got it wrong or you was going to get in trouble. And so when you get older, let's just say your mate says, we need to talk. And you think, what I do wrong? Just that we need to talk is triggering this story in your mind. Like, what did I do wrong? Right? But what if that person wanted to talk about something right? That's not that person's responsibility. So now, because you think you did something wrong, right? Now, either you're avoiding, right? You're avoiding the conversation. You're like, okay, I'll be there in 10 minutes. You never show up. You never it's been a whole 30 minutes, a whole 3 hours or whatever. You never show up because now you think you're trying to avoid what the trigger said You're trying to avoid something because this narrative triggered in you that you did something wrong, right? And now when you go show up, the person may have an attitude. They don't have an attitude. They didn't have an attitude at first. They actually may be responding to your response to your trigger. Does that make sense? So because you felt like you did something wrong, you became avoidant. You withdrew. Now that other person may be responding to your avoidance and to you withdrawing, not to the conversation. And then as soon as you see that, now you feel justified, like, yep, see, they always got an attitude. That's what I'm saying. See, this is how triggers play little fickle roles, right? Little small roles in how we show up. And so we need to become aware of this voice in our head, you guys. So when things are triggering, it doesn't mean that we're failing, you guys, right? We have to become aware of this voice in our head when we're triggering or this feeling in our body, right? And then get back present. And I know that a lot of us have gotten whoopings when we were little and got in trouble and, and got on punishment. And so as adults, we carry this disciplinary like behavior. So a lot of times we feel like we're in trouble, right? And I say as an adult, you can't be in trouble. As an adult, who gonna whoop you, right? Right. And then a lot of times we will then respond back like in overconfidence or, I'm going to say overconfidence, but, abrasive, right? Like you can't tell me what to do. You ain't my mama. Well, nobody trying to be your mama. Well, you can't tell me what to do. You ain't my daddy. Well, nobody trying to be your daddy. But in a relationship, in any mutual relationship, we should be able to talk to each other about our needs and desires and what I want you to do and what I don't want you to do. But when that I got in trouble, feeling comes up or I'm doing something quote unquote wrong, I said something wrong, I did something wrong, then now I must be in what? Trouble. Now I'm trying to hide because I know that feeling. At least I think I do. My body remembers what it felt like to get whooped. My body remembers what it felt like to be on punishment. And I don't want to feel that anymore. And I just want you to know that as an adult, you don't have to feel that anymore. But you need to recognize that that's the state that you're currently in so you can move out of it and get present and have a healthy dialogue, with yourself and those around you. All right. So this verse that I was talking about, Corinthians 12:9, right? My grace is sufficient for you. Listen, this verse reminds us that healing is a partnership with grace, right? We got to learn to give ourselves grace, right? Know that the Creator is always giving us grace, right? And we have to give people around us grace, you guys. Not something that to have forced. It's not something we have to face alone, you guys. All right. When we are struggling, God is the God within us, right, is giving us this strength. All right. And when we can recognize that strength, we can start seeing it outside of us. All right. Instead of resisting our emotions, we can actually lean into our faith, knowing that we are supported, you guys, knowing that we are supported. All right. I did have this one, Psalms 34:18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and save those who are crushed in spirit, right? So what this means is if you're feeling heavy, remember that you are not alone, that God is close to you in your pain, guiding you through every trigger and teaching you how to walk in peace, you guys. All right. So here's how I want you to reflect. How can you lean into your faith when triggers arise, right? What if your healing process was not just about self work, but really about trusting God's timing and presence? I'm gonna go back and say this. A lot of times we're not trusting God's timing and presence, you guys, because we're not trusting ourselves, right? And if we can't trust ourselves, then how can we trust the Creator who made us? See, this is a whole full relationship. A lot of us don't trust our intuition. We don't trust our voice. We have become so detached from this great entity that God has created us to be, and we're looking for some guy up there to come save us or to come show us or to come do something to make us trust ourselves. But the seed is in you. The seed is in you. The trust is in you. You just have to believe. And when we start to live because we're shaping our life and now we're experiencing that space always feels vulnerable. That's why we have to live in faith. It's like when you moving, you driving, all of that. Do you not know every time you get in the car, you're being exposed to the elements of the earth? As soon as you get out your bed, even in your bed, you're being exposed to the elements of the earth. But we have already deemed those behaviors safe. So we don't fear that type of stuff unless we've had an accident or something like that to really make us hyper aware of it. Right. But this relationship, this internal relationship that we have with our voice, our mind, our thoughts, our intuition, right? All of the things that's really nurturing our self-talk, all of those things that's really was sent there to really nurture these seeds that God has placed in us, we're not trusting it, right? And so I want you to think about how you can lean on faith, right? And what does faith really mean to you? And do you have it? And if you don't have it, we're not going to judge that. I just think we need to become aware, right? Am I trying to control everything myself because I'm saying I believe in God, but I really don't believe in God? Like, we need to really become honest. And then because we know God's grace is sufficient, right? Because we know that, or we can believe that, right? Even if you don't believe it, like, I don't know, hear it enough, right? That God's grace is sufficient, even in my lack, even in my inadequacies, even in my, even in the way I'm thinking, I'm still whole, right? So God's grace is sufficient as I can show up like this, and then God completes me here, right? Or I can show up like this, and God completes me here, right? Because God's grace is sufficient for me. So that is the thing that's keeping me full and whole. All right. If that makes sense, put a 5 in the chat for me. All right. So our transformational tool for today, you guys, our transformational tool, listen, triggers are not the problem. You've heard me say that. Triggers are not the problem. It's how we respond to them that determines whether we grow or stay stuck. Okay. How we grow or stay stuck, you guys. So here's a simple tool. So that's creative. I didn't know that I had popped that one up like that. So here's some simple tools to navigate our triggers, right? We want to pause, recognize the trigger, right? Instead of immediately reacting, take a deep breath and acknowledge what you're feeling, right? Ask yourself, what just happened that caused this reaction? What just happened to me that caused this reaction, right? This is how we want to kind of slow down in life too. I think that we're so doing stuff so fast, and because our mind is working so fast, we're going to want to slow down a little bit. Okay. The second thing we want to do is identify, connect the trigger to that past pattern, right? It could be a pattern that we have. It could be something we heard, something we know, right? That we've experienced, or something we've seen somebody experience. So most triggers come from old wounds. Ask yourself, is this reaction about the present moment, or is it connected to something deeper? We want to reframe, shift that story instead of spiraling into a negative thought, right? Remind ourselves that this is a trigger. This is not a truth. This is a trigger, not a truth. That's our reframe. I want being triggered. What this trigger is telling me is not true to this moment. That is the real fact. How do we know that? Because if you look at every blade of grass, no blade of grass is made the same. No snowflake is made the same. Nothing that God created is made the same. That means that every moment in your life is unique. So if you're responding for something from your past, it has nothing to do with your present moment. That's the power, because this present moment is creating a unique experience, very unique, that you get to shape, right? And a lot of us are repeating the same blade of grass over and over again, the same conversation, the same emotions, right? Right. The same thing over and over again, because we're not recognizing the uniqueness in our life. We can see it in the snowflakes. We can see it in the blades of grass. We can see it in the grains of sand. We can see it in the raindrops, and we'll say it, right? We'll say, like, God doesn't make anything the same, right? But then we will take the same narratives into our life, and we will relive them over and over and over again, right? So we want to reshift this and say that this is a trigger, not the truth. I have the power to respond differently. And then we want to respond, right? Choose a healing action, right? Triggers often make us want to shut down and lash out. I talked about that. I'm gonna go get up out of here, right? Or you, right? But instead of doing that, I want you to ground yourself. I want you to breathe. I want you to, write it out, affirm your growth, and then seek some support, right? Seek some support. All right. All right. Our affirmation for today. Miss Melissa gave me a 5. Thank you, Miss Melissa. All right. Our affirmation for today. Listen, triggers are not setbacks. They are signposts guiding us to healing. I am no longer running from my discomfort. I lean into my growth. All right. My healing is happening step by step. All right. That's our affirmation. But know that affirmation is very challenging if you don't believe it. But this is not to get you to believe it. This affirmation is here to do. How do I feel when I say this? Is this something I believe, so we can become more self-aware? All right. Our daily intention to set the tone for this transformational Tuesday, you guys. Today, I recognize my triggers as an opportunity for healing, not barriers. I will pause, I will reflect, and I will choose growth over avoidance on this day. All right. All right. And then our bonus challenge for the next 24 hours. Notice when a trigger arises. Instead of just reacting, pause. Pause, right? Write down what it revealed to you. Maybe talk about it in a safe space. You can also DM me, if that's what you would like. All right. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hey, invite a friend. YouTube channel is at I Am Shaping Solutions. Make sure you invite a friend if you enjoyed the conversation. Right. And then if this session was fire, you already know what to do. Join that Project Life program, right? And do what? Drop a fire in the chat for me. All right, let's celebrate our growth. Remember that if you can shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life. I love you. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the obstacles that show up when we truly try, the internal, external obstacles that show up when we really try to heal in our life, you guys. I love you. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow for that conversation. You all have a great and amazing rest of your day. Till later.